sending it. I always ask us, what do you want me to tell the people today? And that's that. Well, no, this one is. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. That means I'm gonna have to pull my glasses out. Let's see, Yvonne. Yvonne is. Mm. No, I'm afraid not. Sure hope. But it's going to be. On the far side, parked in the lot.
Okay, we'll get started shortly. Hey, how you doing? Okay, I think this is on. Is this on? Can you guys hear me? No?
We can have one of your tissues. I know we're not supposed to wipe our glasses, but
Yeah. You push the button. Did you push the button?
Yeah, ooh, the light is on.
yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
A
Yeah.
little grease
Yeah.
on these to fry the chicken.
Can you hear me now? I'm not touching that.
Okay.
Oh,
Testing,
I'm
testing.
not talking close enough. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to the January PAB meeting. Thank you for attending in person. Thank you to everybody that is streaming or watching us while we're streaming on YouTube. And we are also joined by our two ASL interpreters, James Brown and Kaylee Full. Thank you so much for the work you do for us, with us. And we will start with, can you not hear me?
Yeah, quit trying to, talk soft.
Okay. Is that better? Oh, I can hear it. Okay, thank you. So we will start with introductions, and this is a new space for us, so just make sure the green light on your mic is on. And why don't we start over there?
Joyful evening, Arlene Brown. I'm Alliance appointee, and delighted that you all took the time to come and spend with us. And healthy, healthy New Year to all of you. You have your health, you can make your happiness.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Thomas, the newest member to the board.
Alliance.
You gotta really get in the mic.
What's not on? Is the green? You got a green light.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Thomas. I'm the newest board member, and I am very excited to be here to be a part of this great work that's happening in the community.
Okay, Happy New Year. Happy blessed New Year. I am Yvonne Wilson, and I am the council seat. So I hope you all enjoy and get some information.
I'm Luam Teklab, the vice chair, and I am the East District Council seat appointee.
Larry Knox, Northeast Council seat.
AJ Derwin, Northwest Council seat.
Keith Patterson, Alliance seat member.
Okay, and I want to also give another shout out to Miss Kathy Thomas, that's here as our first board meeting.
Really have to get in
I'm
your
so
mic.
sorry. Thank you for her first inaugural board meeting. So welcome. We're so happy to have you join the board.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to be a part of the board. Thank you so much.
Also want to point out we do have 2 excused absences. Our chair, Bill Clark, and Brittany Wells, our PACE director. Both are under the weather, so we hope them a speedy recovery. Brief opening remarks. Obviously, this is a change of scenery for us, so I'd like to acknowledge that. We are here at the City Council chambers, and that initiates our move that we've moved from Main Street to St. Paul, 57 St. Paul. So we are using this space as our new meeting space, but we'll talk more about that and how we can continue moving forward. Okay, so we're going to start with our agenda. So I believe we have. Oh, sorry, folks. We are going to start by reviewing the meeting minutes. Those were emailed out to the board on January 2nd for the December 11th meeting. So any changes, revisions, additions needed to those? Okay, can I ask for a movement to have those accepted?
I move that the minutes be accepted as printed.
Second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, those have been accepted. Thank you, everyone. And from there, we'll move over to the executive director report, and I'll bring over Dr. Myers-Smalls.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening and Happy New Year, certainly to our board. I'd like to also extend a warm welcome to our newest board member, Kathy Thomas. Kathy and I did meet, and per our board orientation process, we went through documents. I think I gave her much more than she maybe wanted at the first meeting. But she has the charter and our annual report and other important documents, but just welcome you. Thank you for taking the charge and looking forward to working with you. Me and my team and the staff are looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
So this evening, I have a few things that I'd like to go over and cover with the board and with the public. And I want to start by saying, certainly in this new year, we had major changes, certainly the move to 57 St. Paul Street, and we're still transitioning. Director Dolores Ivy Page will be going more over that, so I'm not going to take up airspace for that. And I am excited about being in City Council chambers. We are looking forward to the partnership with WXXI, and I'm not sure if the board and the committee is there, but certainly live streaming now, WXXI, in addition to YouTube. But 1 week from tonight, the meeting will be aired again so people can watch it at their leisure. So let me jump into the executive director report. I do want to start by just uplifting what happened yesterday I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze in Minneapolis, and it's just an example of the importance of transparency as they go through the process to investigate. We know that the rules of engagement relative to ICE are very different from course. It's not as stringent, and so it's our hope to our partners in Minneapolis as they work through a very traumatic and very difficult situation, that certainly accountability and transparency will be applied, and that we'll have a better understanding of what happened. So my formal report is as follows, and I would certainly like to thank Pastor Wanda Wilson, who is here tonight. My first agenda item is to just talk a little bit about the Police Accountability Board Alliance, or PABA is the acronym. The Alliance is a coalition of local community groups committed to upholding the publicly mandated independent civilian-led oversight board known as the PAB. Pastor Wanda and I meet monthly and we problem solve. She provides suggestions, and actually a little bit later on the agenda, Vice President Tekliab is going to talk about a suggestion that was moved forward from Pastor Wanda in our conversations. But the Alliance supports the work of the Police Accountability Board, and certainly they are able to get into the community and have conversations and move things forward that we might not be able to as a government agency. So Pastor Wanda, thank you for certainly being here, and we appreciate the partnership. I also want to share with the board, and our Vice President is aware of this, but it's our video project, and it's called Oversight and Practice Community Voices. That's what we're going with for right now. We're still working on solidifying the name. The purpose and approach is as follow. It was developed in response to community feedback, seeking clearer understanding of PAB's role. And board members, you do have a one-page back and front that goes into a little depth. I'm just doing a high-level update on this. So we use video to storytell and to educate and to inform and engage on the written reports, right? So storytelling, we know, is very powerful, and we see storytelling in various forms. We want to capitalize on the fact that that is a very effective way to communicate the way that the PAB is and the way that PAB has affected the community. This approach, we believe, increases transparency, helps to correct misinformation, clarifies the mandate of the Police Accountability Board. It centers on lived experiences, community voice, and real-world accountability. We have a very talented staff who have amazing expertise, but we always have to use the community and their voice and their experiences as our North Star. That is really important, and this project endeavors to do that. And it certainly aligns with national best practices in civilian oversight. So why does it matter, and what is next? It, again, shows oversight in practice and not just on paper. You get to hear the voices, you get to see the faces, the nonverbals, the joy, the frustration, the challenges, etc., that our community members have experienced. We believe that will help to build trust with honest, accessible communication. It also explains current legal and operational realities, including the Locust Club 2. And so, but we can do it in a way that's more accessible, because there's a lot of legal jargon that we use, and it makes it really plain about what we're experiencing and what we're going through. It also amplifies multiple perspectives: community members, board members, experts, oversight leaders, etc. And finally, we will expand to include education on investigations once we have those powers back, policy work, Locust Club dynamics, and knowing your rights. As far as transitioning to community connections, working with and partnering with our community agencies and others in the Rochester area is really critically important. We have active movement right now with Action for a Better Community, also known as ABC, and the Urban League of Rochester. And when I say active movement, these are connections that as the executive director, I am making, because as you know, PACE, and I'll go over those numbers in just a bit, works with many more agencies, but these are direct connections that I am making and working with some of the higher level leaders in the community to partner and to make sure we are capitalizing on their political and their capital. In progress is Colgate Rochester Crozier Divinity School. We cannot forget the importance that faith leaders have, as Pastor Wanda's involvement with us certainly illustrates. But we know Rochester's momentum historically has been on the backs of our faith leaders. And so we can't ignore the partnership, and I'm very excited with the what we're thinking about that will be on the horizon. I met with the Vice President, Dr. Alvarez, and he is very committed to moving forward with us, and so we have some plans. Don't want to spoil it yet because we haven't solidified, but there is sincere and genuine interest. And then Hope 585, that's Dr. Ashley Cross, and she works with families and children who are involved in the healthcare system. We actually were just on a panel today, and she and I have been having conversations just around the overlap and the intersect when you think about the rights of individuals who are involved in not only foster care, but with the child protective system. And we see some very tangible touch points of where we can work together. So I'm excited about that possibility of that partnership. I also just wanted to talk a little bit about December spending and encumbrances. Because if we talk about accountability and transparency, but we don't talk about our finances, then we're not fully aligning with what we expect the community. What you have before you, and I know it's little on the PowerPoint, but you have the full printouts of what we spent and what we encumbered, both in December and then for Q2, which is October, November, and December of 2025. One of the things that you'll see and note is that we use a system to track our invoices, our payments, et cetera, and it's called Munis. And so we are pretty much up to date with our spending. However, the way that Munis sometimes tracks it, it's not always in real time. So I want to just look quickly. So, for example, the furniture that we purchased for 57 St. Paul Street, that has not been applied to our finances as of yet. That's a good example. But you'll see we have responsible spending, and it ranges. Obviously, our biggest expenditure, what do you think it is? Salary and wages, which for most organizations and entities, that's what the case is. But we have everything from office supplies to postage. We have repair of equipment. We have dues and subscriptions. We have mileage reimbursement. We're all over the city. We have food and meal expenses. We have miscellaneous expenses. We have travel and training. That has slowed down in the winter months, but will pick up again soon. And Dolores is going to talk about a training that we are going to have in a little over a week entitled Undoing Racism, which, as all the board members know, but the community might not know, anti-racism is the underpinnings of the Police Accountability Board. And so Undoing Racism outlines that framework. And then cell phones and air cards. So we're on track. Dolores, our Director of Operations, and Leslie Green, our Executive Assistant, have worked really hard to make sure that everything is in on time, that we're our invoices, and they've done a phenomenal job. And so, you know, being accountable and transparent is really easy when you have individuals that are doing that with integrity and with professionalism. Just briefly, I also provided for the board website traffic, and that executive summary and the data is in your folder as well. To the community, please do not be dismayed. All of this information that I'm mentioning does get uploaded to the website, so you'll see my executive director report, you'll see our data, etc. So we had website traffic, 3,500 views, and then 7,700 event counts. So somebody might click in different areas. We are very thankful to City Council that last year for the 25-26 fiscal year, they allowed us to move our webmaster from half-time to full-time. And so we want to ensure that we show that that position is being put to really good use. And we track, he tracks our data and makes recommendations for us to move forward to try and ensure, in this case, our website is maximizing impact and reach. And he works in collaboration with the public affairs and community intake, public affairs and community engagement. As far
I had
as
a question about that one. That was allowed, sorry.
that's okay.
For this might be too granular, I apologize if it is, but for site traffic, number 3 was page not found. Does that mean there was errors when people were going to find a specific part of the?
Tell me where you are.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Larry,
under
I'm sorry.
PAB site traffic, first page, the top, it goes through the most clicked on sections of the website.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll look that up and I'll make sure I respond to you tonight during the board meeting.
Okay, cool.
Okay, because I need to rifle through.
Yep.
Thank you. Accountability and transparency, and I always uplift this because of Board Member Knox. He wants to make sure that the community is well aware. Say it again. Oh, that would be great. I don't know where it is, though. We could have the television plugged into the PowerPoint.
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't have the remote. Well, we'll make sure that we ask for it for next time.
Who's that back there?
Board Member Knox, it's really important to him and all of the board, but Board Member Knox makes sure he likes for us to reiterate that even though we are unable to investigate, we still receive complaints. And so for the month of December, we received 6 complaints, and they were either online, through the PAB hotline, email, or we even had a walk-in. So that's why it's so important through our Public Affairs and Community Engagement Division that they make sure they're getting the word out that we've moved so that we won't lose the ability to take in walk-ins. We don't want anyone to be discouraged and not know where we are. There we go. Thank you. Is that better, Board Member Brown? Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for being considerate.
You're welcome.
Can you see?
It's now on the screen. You can't see that?
I was talking to her because she's sitting sideways.
Oh,
actually.
okay. Wanted to make sure it's, because I can make my PowerPoints bigger if I need to.
Okay.
The font. So the complaint categories, and you can see the top of those 6 during the month of December. Abuse of authority received 3, and failure to act 3. What's important to note, because you can see that those numbers that are listed certainly don't add up to 6. It's more than 6. But when we get a complaint, it can be multiple areas, right? So it could be the alleged misconduct, wrongful arrest, maybe a search and seizure, and a failure to act, or a combination. So you can see on the graph the breakdown of the complaint categories. And then we also issue what's called a PTN, or a public tracking number. And so all 6 complaints that were received in December were assigned a PTN, and you can see those numbers that are listed. So as we're moving through looking at trends, we can list certainly 2 or more of these PTNs to show that there is a trend or a concern or something that we're interested in looking at further. Let's talk a little bit about key performance indicators. Every year, we work with City Council staff and City Council to give an update on where we are relative to our KPIs or key performance indicators. So we work internally as a leadership team and staff to determine what those numbers are going to be. Tonight, I wanted to break down what happened in the Public Affairs and Community Engagement Division's KPIs from July 1 through December 31st. So I just want to give an update to show you where we are. And you'll note that they are not listed in the order that they are listed on here because I wanted to have a crescendo up to the number of events and individuals that we came in contact with. Okay, so that was purposeful on my part. So interpreting is an important aspect of the Police Accountability Board. We have spoken many times that we have multiple beautiful languages other than English that are spoken in Rochester. And so listed here, we keep track of our interpreting and the number of hours that we provide that. And so you can see from July through December, there are 41 hours that are logged for interpreting. So that is really, really powerful, and that has certainly been an advocacy point and important for our language access coordinator who's here today in the front row, Dr. Heather Feynman. Next are the translations, and you can see that certainly Spanish is not the only language that we translate in. So you can see that when we did our calls for service survey, our budget oversight investigation report, which is in the final stages, and then survey responses required translation from the language into English and was translated. And so you can see the information that is listed here and how that played out through the Police Accountability Board. We also are responsible for tracking communication-related activities. So things like press releases, social media posts, events, etc. And you can see where we currently sit and where we project to end by June 30th, 2026. I'm getting used to saying 2026 still. And then obviously our events, you can see from July to December what is listed. So you can see that obviously that December had the lowest amount because we had, there's a lot going on, the weather changes, but we still are able to get into organizations. We also do things virtually, but you can see the number of events, which is the left side of the bar, but those events add up to interactions with community members, and you can see that that is very significant. So those are the KPI events. And then the last one is the survey, and so we have not announced this yet. We're working with the Rochester Police Department on a satisfaction survey, so that's in progress. So in the next month or two, we'll be able to come back and have a conversation about that, okay? So that's KPI.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So when you say we're working with the police department, they're doing the survey, or who's doing the survey?
We are leading the effort, but they have input in it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so again, I just want to reiterate about the importance of filing reports. Although we cannot individually investigate individual misconduct, you still can file a report. So I wanted to make sure that that information was available. And again, you can see online, you can call us, you can email us, you can mail us, or you can walk into 57 St. Paul Street. And just additional information in the QR code and just different ways that you can certainly advocate and share. Pardon?
I'm sorry. I have a question in regards to being able to make a file,
Yes.
and how long does it sit there, and is there any type of follow-up as they've reported it to make it known that it has been where it stands in the queue? So that people don't
Absolutely.
think it's just being a call and no response.
Sure. No, that's why we have, we combined last year the case management division with the then investigations division, which is now accountability and transparency. And we walked through and had a very detailed process for that. But remember, we're not investigating, so we do let individuals know that we're looking for trends and patterns. Before, our investigators, working in concert with the case managers, would let individuals know when we were looking at an individual, here's where we are, or we have a little bit of delay because we're having difficulty getting data, et cetera. So really, it's a letter that says we're not allowed, just as a reminder, we're not allowed to individually investigate, but this is important data. Should we be able to investigate, we will certainly let you know when that ability has been reinstated. But we also are looking for trends and patterns. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so just additional information relative to how you can support the Police Accountability Board. So that concludes my report. I don't know if there are any other questions that board members have that you'd like me to address at this time. And I promise, Larry, I will get back on the other one.
I was also wondering, so we've gone a few months now without not being able to investigate particular individual complaints. Have we thought about, or there's been any consideration of letting people know who have sitting complaints that this is where we're at, or giving them an outlet to be able to, maybe express how they're feeling about not having their complaints being investigated? Because it's been, if somebody did a complaint like in May or June, it's becoming longer. The ones we just got back in, they haven't had, but we've had people that have complaints that we were investigating that had to stop, and ones that we've got in sent that we haven't been able to begin to investigate. And not everybody's on the news all the time. Not everybody maybe knows what's going on with the delay. And also, I want to know how people who are waiting, how they're feeling about that. It might be good for the public and electeds and others to know that we have people that have sitting complaints that have not been looked at. And I think it'd be good just to see where community that has complaints and how they're feeling about that.
So to answer your first question, we did have to go through when April 28th happened, we had a few cases that we were just close to being able to close. And the then investigators were like, but we're there. And I was like, we can't do anything else. It's a no-no. So we certainly reached out not only to those individuals, but to all individuals that had cases that were in limbo to let them know. We sent letters, and I know that there was some phone follow-up. So that did happen. But I will take into advisement, and we debrief the board meetings on Fridays. I debrief with the leadership team, and then also with the PACE team. We can have a conversation about what that might look like to get a sense, and maybe that's part of the video project that we do, is we go back out and we ask people, hey, you had a case with us, tell me how you're feeling. So that might be a venue that we can capitalize on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can move forward. Thank you,
Great.
Dr.
So with
Morrison.
that, I'm going to transition to my director, Dolores Ivy Page. She's going to present. We moved it around. So Dejan, who is overseeing accountability and transparency and policy and oversight, he can just go back to back. So it's just a little more smooth.
Good evening, everyone. Dolores Ivy Page, Director of Operations. I'm going to report on the PAB relocation to 57 St. Paul. So on Monday, December 22nd, we successfully completed our move from 245 East Main to 57 St. Paul. During that move, there were a number of individuals who were on vacation, so it made it a smoother transition. But at this time, all staff are now fully back in the office, and employees are appropriately placed and operational in the new space. While our current setup is temporary and requires some adjustments, we have found ways to make the space functional and effective for our work. There are minor cosmetic items still to be addressed. However, overall operations are stable and moving forward without disruption. And I also want to reiterate that although we may experience some temporary discomfort, our focus remains on the mission and responsibilities entrusted to us by the community. If being temporarily uncomfortable allows us to continue doing the work the community voted us in to do with integrity, purpose, and accountability, then we are prepared to move forward without hesitation. The work does not stop, and neither does our commitment. Moving forward with that, unless anyone has any questions in reference to the move.
I kind of do.
Okay.
It's pertaining to parking for the board. So are there going to be free parking for the board, or are we going to be, is there, how's that going to go?
So the parking is the same as it was in 245 East Main. There's street parking. I'm not sure if there will be parking available up front after hours, but for right now it would just be parking, street parking at 57 St. Paul. And the same here as well.
Oh, there's safety that's going to walk me to my car. No, okay, thank you.
I mean, if you need an escort, yes, security will be there as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Just because, like obviously we're moving to a space that's not fully ready, which is disappointing. But I know out of our control, we did as a board and I know as staff talked about the concerns with that. As you've been dealing with the city in regards to getting that space together, how's that process been? Have they been responsive to the staff's concerns, management's concerns about what else needs to be done to make the space comfortable? And what is the time frame for us being completely moved in with all the offices and space?
So I'm going to go back. The staff concerns and regarding our current space, the red coats, I haven't heard any concerns. Like, we're working on, there are going to be a few hiccups. We understand that, and we're working through them. So that space that we're in was previously renovated. So we're moved in, and everybody is in their prospective spaces. However, the individuals that are there temporarily will then move over to the other side once it's renovated. Right now, we have a time frame, as I mentioned before, March, but that's tentative. I don't have a firm date.
I do want to add to what Dolores just said. Just yesterday, we had architecture and other individuals actually walk through the space with us, and we identified if areas were too hot or too cold. We also wanted to look at, remember, 57 St. Paul Street is an older building, so some of the wiring is very different from what it was like at 245 East Main Street. So we just want to make sure that we are not plugging too many appliances and things of that nature in. But they were very agreeable. They took notes, and I actually received emails today saying we're following up on this, we're looking into that. Information technology, IT has been really helpful of just trying to get us online to make sure we're able to print to the different printers. And, they still are tacking some things down and things of that nature. But I found them to be very responsive. And the walkthrough that we did yesterday was very encouraging and very helpful. I felt it to be very supportive. And they promised that they will continue to keep me and Dolores updated relative to timelines with the Lero side.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I also want to mention we received a media notification for January 23rd to talk about the renovation new space as well. I'm going to move on to the upcoming board meetings.
I'm sorry, I have a question. In regards to, I heard mention about a one-person walk-in. Has that been part of the process that community members have been able to walk in? So, how does that impact the new location in terms of community being able to access, and what would be the process?
So right now, if anyone comes in for a to file a report, they can come in through the Bragg, which is the blue doors. So they would come through that area that individual come through the door. Right now, there's going to be security cameras in the space hasn't been set up at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on that. So the new is particular walk-ins with reports.
Right.
And okay, how to get to that again, not available online.
I'm sure and find give you that answer.
But there's still security also, not just cameras are going to be there. Is the person going to be there to let them in?
Right, the space located near the area that's rented. But in order to get to our space, they have to go through the main area. So that's why there were some changes made. I can talk to you more about the architecture, DES, and building security.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm on to upcoming board meeting dates and locations, so I have those solidified. So on February 19th, the board meeting will be held at 57 St. Paul in room 341. That's where the street parking will be. The other dates, March 5th.
Can I just insert something? Because I know the board, this is your first time hearing that for most of you, I think, or all of you. Remember, we had some glitches with utilizing City Hall, and a date was set up the last Thursday in February and then the first Thursday in March. So we wanted to space that out. We heard concerns. So I just wanted to clarify that's what I'm doing over here.
And I have a question. If the PAB office, is there a reason why it's on 19, not just regular, say the
Some conflicts
okay.
that didn't allow us to have the first Thursday of February. We can't. Pardon?
57 Paul
57 St. Paul will be February 18th. Okay.
Can't have city council chambers.
Here at February 19th, but an alternative, can't have the board meeting here. They'll be held at 7 St. Paul.
Oh, it's Thursday each month, the way that it should.
I'm going to that I have up until June. So the next board meeting will be March 5th, 2nd, May 21st, 18th. All of those will be here.
So May and June are different from the day.
Any other questions?
So I don't want to be micromanaging, I guess, but June 1's the meeting is on Thursday because of here city councils of them 57 Paul obviously counties along a year in advance before we got here is ultimately are the regularly have
Yes.
all right but if we regularly our plan necessarily always be the same month every day. We give people months in advance knowing board means when there's as planned it's going to be sometime first days based on the council calendar.
Right, but I've actually got in front of it, so I actually July up until October, I've actually secured those dates as well.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. July through October, but then we get into November and December around the holiday. Those dates fluctuate a little bit, so time we might be having the 57 St. Paul.
If you want it to be on the first Thursday.
Correct.
Yes, I think it would be better for the community and us. We still keep it on the first Thursday but they can still have a consistency. So they want to watch the meetings or whatever they can.
And that also
That was what I was trying to get to.
right. That also depends on the availability at St. Paul as well, because we have to schedule those rooms. I don't anticipate there being any issues because it's after hours, but they still have to be scheduled and approved.
Another question about the room. I mean, our room at the old office was a really good, it's big open space. This is a big open space.
Mm-hmm.
Easier for the community to get to. The room at St. Paul, how is that for space and set up for streaming and access for the public?
So the room isn't, we actually viewed it. I know that they have done other community events there. It's smaller than 245 East Main, but it can hold the amount of people we have here in addition to the board and attendees. So I don't anticipate that being an issue.
And the streaming, we'll be able to set that up. Is that room set for the streaming?
Yes, our webmaster, we're going to go through and do a walkthrough to make sure there are no issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And on the same topic, I'm sure you're already planning to do this, but if you could send us a list of all those meeting dates and the location in writing so that we can plug them into our calendars and make sure we know what date and what location to go to for each of these meetings.
Right.
Into the future.
And I
That'd
think
be
I've
very
done
helpful.
that previously with some of the dates. I sent those emails out, so they have gone out with the dates and the location and times.
Thank you.
So they will be sent, AJ, via, we'll do a update in the Friday letter, but Leslie Green will send Outlook calendar invites to redo the previous one. So it'll have the date, the time, and the location.
And then that just goes back to the forms you filled out today with your preferred method of contact, specifically for your email addresses, so that we know that this is an email that you check regularly.
It goes without saying, but I mean, that'll go up on the website too once all these dates.
Correct.
Okay.
So additional operation updates is a training debrief. So we're scheduled to hold a debrief session for undoing racism following the 3-day workshop held in September. That will be on Friday, January 16th. This session will provide an opportunity for reflection, alignment, and continued learning as we apply this work to our ongoing operations and community engagement. Does anybody have any questions in regarding our training session?
I'm hopeful that we can get to a point that we are able to offer the training to the board because it's really powerful. People, there's been a full court press to ensure that all leaders in the city of Rochester are trained, but I think you would really enjoy that training. It's very intensive, and you do have to give up 2.5 full days. You can't attend a day and then, or you can't come and go. You have to be committed to the entire time, but it is very impactful. Undoing Racism by the People's Institute for Survival. Powerful.
So will that be in the morning or afternoon?
It's all day, 2.5 days.
What's the calendar for that?
We haven't set up the training yet, so we would look. I mean, we would need to. I mean, it's it's an investment, so we would want to make sure that we could have, if not all board members, the majority of board members. But we could also see if they had suggested to us that maybe we even want to do a community undoing racism, so the board could do it with that. So we're looking at some different options, but we would far in advance send the calendar.
And do you have any information on the organization that's doing it?
I can send that in the Friday letter, sure.
I would appreciate that, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Having taken a number of anti-racism trainings, they can vary.
Yes, they can. This one is
doing one with my seminary as an alumni event. So I'm just want to make sure that
understood. Go ahead, Dolores. Are you done?
That completes my report.
Well, good evening, and may it please the board. My name is Dejan Hall. I am the Director of Policy and Oversight, also the Interim Director of Accountability and Transparency, formerly known as Investigations, and currently also supervise our internal legal team. In the very short month of December, because we had a lot of staff on vacation recently due to the holidays, the A&T division was still able to complete some of the work on the various projects I reported on last month, that being our proposal for change related to how RPD handles sexual assault investigations. As recently as Monday, I got an update from RPD's liaison to the PAB, Captain Sweatman, informing us that they're hard at work trying to fulfill our latest SOI. For our artificial intelligence policy project that A&T is working on, they are currently in the drafting stage, so hopefully in the next couple of months we'll see a completed project there. And the last project that A&T is working on, vehicular pursuits, I think I implicated this last month, but I'll reiterate here. We have received over 7,000 videos from police chases or vehicular pursuits from the previous 5 years. We made a request during the middle of last month for RPD to provide download access so that we can utilize our video analyzation tool known as Reduct, which will help speed through some of our analysis using machine learning. Over in policy and oversight,
I had a question. Do you want to wait till the end, or?
Yeah. 1 second. Thank you, though. In policy and oversight, we are continuing to analyze the community survey data related to our 911 from calls to arrival project, which, if anyone hasn't read yet, can be found on rockpab.org. We are currently drafting a proposal for change regarding drones as a first responders program. You'll hear a little bit more about that in the presentation coming next. We submitted a policy memo to RPD at their request regarding the development of that program, but we're also going to change into a proposal for change so that we can get the community input directly into how they would like to see that program shaped. And here's where I'm going to pause for questions as my colleague sets up for their presentation, and then I will, of course, introduce my colleague.
My question was for the vehicle report. I mean, obviously, you got the footage from RPD. Oftentimes, when there are chases, state police, sheriff are also involved. Were those videos also provided if they were part of the database that was within RPD? If they're using that for investigation, I would assume they'd have footage potentially from those vehicles, but we've had an issue in the past of getting that. Was that an issue this time around?
I can't say for certain because, again, it's 7,000 videos. We haven't had the opportunity to go through each individual video. Off the top of my head, I would say that the answer is likely no because, as you implicated previously, RPD and city law has been hesitant to turn over video or footage from fellow law enforcement agencies outside of this jurisdiction. But should during my review I discover that some of those videos are from other agencies, I'll be sure to follow up with you and let you know.
I'd be really concerned just because it's a given, but let's repeat it because it's maybe been a few months since this came up, but if our charter is very clear, we have access to everything that's in the RPD databases. Everything means everything. We should also have direct access, but that's, we'll get to that battle again. But if there is within those databases footage from other law enforcement agencies as within the RPD databases, and that's a part of something that we're looking at for the data, for the policy recommendations or investigations, we need to have complete data sets that are matching what's in the RPD databases. And if there are camera footage or whatever else from other agencies, that should be given to the staff so they can do the proper work.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll just also mention, in addition to the powers granted in the charter, there's also the Freedom of Information Law, which should be able to grant us access to that kind of video as well.
You dropped off at the end, AJ.
The Freedom of Information Law, in addition to the powers granted to the agency in the charter, would also give the agency the ability to access videos from state police or other police agencies.
Yes, and the P&O division specifically has been utilizing FOIL since its inception, and that's something we'll continue to do. whenever we encounter any sort of encumbrances from city law. Any other questions so far? Okay. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Jinks, our Oversight Manager, who will give a presentation regarding police technology and its impact on the privacy rights of everyday Rochesterians. I will ask that you write any questions that you may have down and ask them at the conclusion of the presentation. With that being said, please give your attention and welcome to Sarah Jinks.
Hey everyone. Hi, good evening and Happy New Year. I'm happy to be up here presenting to you. I'm Sarah Jenks, Oversight Manager in the Division of Policy and Oversight. In the Division of Policy and Oversight, we review and assess the policies, procedures, patterns, and practices of the RPD, and then we make recommendations for change with input from the community. Today I'll present a project called Surveillance Technology and Privacy Impact Assessments, a proposal for change. A proposal for change is what we call the process of making formal policy recommendations as laid out in the city charter. So next month, we'll release the draft of this report to the public, and then I'll go around and I'll give a presentation similar to this one around the community. And also our community engagement team will help spread the message and gather feedback. Members of the community will also be able to watch videos on our social media and submit feedback online. We'll then analyze that feedback and incorporate it into the final proposal. At that point, you all would vote to approve or revise the proposal. Once you approve it, we will submit that final report and recommendations to the Chief of Police, to City Council, and to the Mayor. And then the Chief will have 30 days to respond to us, stating whether or not they'll implement the recommendations, and if yes, they would give a timeline for implementation, and if no, they would give a reason for the denial. So that's the outline of a proposal for change. So today I'm here to tell you about the findings from the policy review on surveillance technology and its impacts on civilians' privacy. I'll also describe a tool called a privacy impact assessment, or a PIA. And then lastly, I'll discuss PAB's recommendations for change. Thank you. So first, the RPD uses surveillance technology to monitor suspicious activity and to support investigations into alleged crimes. With things like cameras and other technologies, the RPD collects and keeps information about individuals in the city of Rochester. By collecting and maintaining this information about individuals' identities, the RPD can more precisely identify crime suspects, victims, and witnesses. However, anytime the RPD collects information about an individual, there are risks to that individual's privacy. Things like their constitutional right to privacy. And also, once information is stored in a database, there's a question of security of that personal information. We have to think about balancing the priorities of public safety with people's personal freedoms. So there are a number of ways that the RPD collects and stores. The technical term is personally identifiable information, or PII. And examples of personal information to be collected would be demographic, demographic information like name, age, race, and gender, and biometric data. Things about people's property like their vehicle information, and then also their personal activity and whereabouts. When this information is obtained in accordance with laws, it can help achieve public safety goals like closing crime cases. However, when privacy procedures are not followed, it can produce an undue burden on an individual's right to privacy. So an example that I would talk about here is, later on we're going to talk about drones, like drone cameras. When I think about an undue burden on an individual's right to privacy, I think about what is my reasonable expectation of privacy? And in a place that would be a public space, such as Parcel 5 or City Hall, I have no expectation of privacy. So someone can film me, the police or anyone, and they can do whatever they want with that information. But on a place like at my home, in front of my home, on my front porch, that's kind of murky. Like, is that public or is it private space? However, with something like inside my home, in my kitchen, I have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So if there's a drone camera outside my home, you know, maybe trying to collect footage about my neighbor, but it also collects information from when I'm inside my kitchen window, like that's beyond what is reasonable. That's an example of that. And then, okay, so another issue that we want to think about with privacy is the potential of disproportionate enforcement for these surveillance technologies for already marginalized groups. So for example, something I'll talk about more in depth later on is that there's a higher concentration of surveillance cameras in Rochester's predominantly Black or Hispanic neighborhoods than in our white neighborhoods. Additionally, research shows that some police surveillance technologies like facial recognition have higher rates of inconsistencies when considering subjects with darker complexions. And then another consideration in privacy is this idea of there's a potential for slowly shifting the acceptable level of interference with an individual's privacy over time. An example I would give of this is 15 years ago, it didn't really feel possible that there would be a device, a smart device in my home listening to me and selling my data so that I could get targeted ads. And it would have felt invasive 15 years ago. But now people accept this idea of a technology. They're happy to have an Alexa in their home. The trade-offs are worth it for them. So these are all things that like I would call technology creep. And we want to propose ways to slow down that creep and make sure that if the police are using surveillance technology like that, they're doing it with our community's consent and understanding. There are a couple different ways that personal information can be mishandled. So someone who is allowed to access data, like in the police department, they might misuse it. My example for this is that an individual with an authorized access, so like a police officer, might want to search for information about the home address of someone they know. That search would be inappropriate if the authorized user conducted it out of personal curiosity and not for law enforcement activity. Second, an individual within the organization who doesn't usually access a database, they may gain access to it without proper authorization and then maybe misuse or tamper. So in law enforcement, that would be like someone reassigning demographic characteristics to someone they were interacting with. And then lastly, an unauthorized external party could access personal information with malicious intent. Such data breaches have serious implications for the privacy of individuals. And that's something that I know I've experienced personally, where I receive emails saying there's been a breach to the privacy of your data. And for someone's e-commerce account, that might not be a terrible thing, but when it comes to the sensitive information in law enforcement databases, that would have really serious consequences. I'm going to talk about a couple of the ways that the RPD collects information about people. It'll be the surveillance technologies, body-worn cameras, blue light cameras, which are technically called unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs, and then lastly, King devices. But there are also the technologies that store personal information, like LERMS, the Law Enforcement Records Management System, and the Genetech Clearance Digital Evidence Management System, or DEMS. First, body-worn cameras. This is a program that was advocated for in Rochester about 10 years ago. United Christian Leadership Ministry was instrumental in getting it adopted. And it was introduced as a tool for accountability. And it is that. Like, we, the PAB, rely on body-worn camera footage a lot, but it's also used by the police as an evidentiary mechanism. So it's the system, or the body-worn camera program is guided by a really great, or a long manual that basically has this principle: members will immediately activate the BWC, body-worn camera, when required unless it's not safe and practical. And in 2022, soon after the Policy and Oversight Division started, the RPD brought legislation to City Council requesting funding to overhaul the body-worn camera program and their digital evidence management system. City Council passed that funding appropriation, but required the RPD to conduct what's called a privacy impact assessment. And that would be a written document where the RPD says, shows that they've considered the implications for people's privacy in carrying out this program. They did not complete that privacy impact assessment as of when I last checked in December, like a month ago. And so we recommend that they complete it as part of our recommendations. Next is the blue light camera program, and these are things that you've probably seen around town. They're like an upside down dome, and then they have this signature blue light. They're often at intersections and attached to buildings. And the RPD received a grant from New York State last year, giving $8 million to overhaul and upgrade the system. So I found through the research for this project that cameras, the blue light cameras, are not evenly distributed across the city of Rochester, nor are they associated with high crime areas. They are more concentrated, as you see in the map. The darker colors is higher concentration. They're more concentrated in residential neighborhoods that are predominantly Black or Hispanic based on the 2020 census. In fact, residents in those neighborhoods are 3 times more likely to be surveilled around their homes than those in predominantly white neighborhoods. And you can tell which census, sorry, these are census tracts. I did not say that. These are not zip codes. So the census tract is a size or like a portion of a city and that is supposed to have equal population. So that's what those are. And you can tell which ones are the predominantly white ones. They have the cross hatching. So you can see there are fewer cameras per 10,000 residents in those census tracts with the cross hatching. Next is the drone camera program. The RPD shared with us an audit of their program since it started in 2019. And so the results of that audit are what we see here in the chart. Use has increased year over year for purposes like narcotics investigations, protest overwatch, ATV detail, river gorge searches, and special event support. You see there was a little bit of a uptick in 2020 when we know that the drone cameras were used for protest overwatch for the George Floyd and Daniel Prude protests. And then in April of last year, the RPD launched their Drones as First Responders program, or a pilot program. And this pilot is a common program we've seen popped up in cities around the country. And the idea of a pilot program is that eventually it would be scaled up and be used commonly. So Drones as First Responders, just as it sounds, is that the RPD, not in lieu of sending a response team, but before a response team could arrive, say if there were a large car accident, they could go and use it for what they call situational awareness to see what they would want to do next. And the way that we all learned about this program was when the RPD brought forth legislation against City Council, or in front of City Council, and requested funds for overtime to administer the program. Next is a technology that is shrouded in mystery. It's called the Kingfish Cellular Transceiver. It's a device that tracks and intercepts mobile phone communications. And as of February of last year, the RPD liaison to the PAB said that the RPD no longer uses this technology and hasn't for some time. The reason we know about it is from a 2016 investigation conducted by the New York Civil Liberties Union. And they found that there are these Kingfish cellular transceivers that the RPD is using to find, to track people's cellular data. And the device itself is pretends to be a cell tower. So right now, all of our cell phones are transmitting data to and from the nearest cell tower. And this, the Kingfish lives in a police car, so the police would drive it to where their known targets, or their target's known whereabouts, and then it would intercept the information from their cell phone. However, the device itself doesn't know which of these cell phones that it's collecting data from are the actual targets. So there are innocent bystanders who are just having their information collected. And ideally, the RPD would be obtaining warrants to get this information. However, the NICLU 2016 investigation that they only obtained warrants for half of the situations when they used the device. Also part of that investigation brought to light this non-disclosure agreement between the RPD and Harris Corporation, who manufactures the device. The NDA was coordinated by the FBI, and it's many pages long with lots of stipulations, but two that really stood out to me were that the RPD may not use information regarding this technology in legal proceedings. If such information is used in the prosecutorial process, the FBI will request that the RPD seek dismissal of the case. And also, when the RPD receives a Freedom of Information request regarding the technology, the RPD must notify the FBI with sufficient time for the FBI to seek to prevent disclosure. So this is why we don't know a lot about this technology. And the RPD may or may not still use it. We heard that they don't use it anymore, but also that statement complies with the non-disclosure agreement. So what can we do to slow down or stop when we don't feel comfortable with this kind of technology being used on our community members? Well, one stopping point is that when the RPD requests funding for these kinds of technologies from City Council, we could require them to submit a privacy impact assessment. And it is something that City Council requested of them, or required of them, when they did the body-worn camera overhaul 3 years ago. So they would need to answer questions like, what's the purpose of collecting this personal information? What's the policy for complying with all existing laws and policies? And then what types of information will be collected? And how do you ensure the quality? Are there security safeguards in place? And are there mechanisms to enforce the policies? Well, that's all the information, and much more detailed in the reports that you have. I'll welcome your feedback, but first I'll share our overarching recommendations. First, adopt a PIA template. So we suggest that the RPD create a list of questions that they can stick with and then use going forward. Second, complete the privacy impact assessment that was required by City Council in 2022 for the body-worn camera program. Third is proactively complete a privacy impact assessment for the Drones as First Responders program. I said earlier that they started a pilot in April of last year, but again, that probably means they're looking to scale it up and adopt it as an actual program. Next, submit a privacy impact assessment for any legislation related to the collection or storage of personal information. And then, once they've written these privacy impact assessments, make them available on the open data portal so anyone can read them. And last, super specifically, include specific citations when referencing laws and departmental policies in RPD documents. This kind of thing of surveillance technology and privacy is very murky and decided year by year in laws, in legislatures, and in case law. So there are times when, like in the body-worn camera manual, when RPD is super specific about which law and statute they're citing to make sure they're complying. And then there are other times when they just say laws. And so it's our recommendation that they always be as specific as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you open for questions now?
Yeah, I'll take questions. Yes.
I have a question. And it's about the distribution of these blue light cameras. And I found it interesting that it wasn't just done for the entire city, because I was in a city last year where there were close to 1 million blue light cameras. And they were everywhere. They were in not only high crime areas, but they were also in high income areas, I guess to prevent burglaries and such. And so I'm wondering I know what the reason was for the current placement of cameras, but I'm wondering why there was not a larger distribution so that there was equity, that every neighborhood is being covered and not one is being over-policed and over-surveilled.
That's really interesting to hear. I imagine that cost is probably a reason for the number of 157. The police department also has like a handful of mobile cameras that they do move around for like a case-by-case basis. So there is one out on Parcel 5. It's like a big white car trailer looking machine. It's got a big pole, and then it's got that iconic blue light at the top. So there is a way for them to do like a quick move on their feet, put in a camera somewhere. But the initial distribution is reported to be sensitive to high crime areas, but based on the RPD's open data portal crime map or crime data for 2024, it doesn't really seem to be the case. So I would have to do some more digging on that. Good question.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask, when board members ask questions, you really, because Reverend Patterson, they could barely hear you. People are listening online, and I'm getting text messages. We cannot hear you. So you've got to be up in the mic. Everyone.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Stay there.
Okay.
Stay there.
I had a similar question. The blue light cameras are basically like in Rochester. They're in the inner city where the most crime, they quote, say happens. And could that be a reason that they're in the city and not in the surrounding suburbs?
Well, I don't really know about the surrounding suburbs. I can only speak to what's happening in the city of Rochester. And yes, it is reported that that the cameras are in high crime areas, but based on my research, I didn't find that. So if you look at the map that's up on the screen now, that's the one on the left is regarding crime in the year 2024. And it doesn't appear that there's really like any neighborhood concentration for crime. It's pretty well distributed across the quadrants. But then if you look at cameras, so it really is center city where the most cameras are concentrated, and that's where there's a lot of people moving throughout the day. It's like a business district, and then there's a lot of property and to be watched.
Okay, and are they on basically the major streets? You know, like I live in the 19th ward, okay? And the blue light cameras, if you mostly see, are going to be on well-traveled streets. Yeah. They're not going to really be on a off street where I want to say a neighborhood, but they're going to be on the main streets.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, or asking the question what I'm saying, because I know we say it's systemically set in, black and brown areas, but I guess the 19th ward, most of the streets don't have the cameras. So things can happen on your street because someone came and stole my neighbor's car out of her driveway, and there was no camera that detected that, unless it was our Ring cameras.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain. Here's if that's okay, here's the data that I start with. And these are all of the locations of the blue light cameras around the city of Rochester. And you can actually access this information too. It's on the RPD's open data portal. And then I do fancy things with it to make the other maps. But like you can look around here. You're right, in the 19th ward it is the major streets.
Correct.
But elsewhere in the city, you can find it in residential areas. Yeah, so that's something I encourage you to look around the map. Like I said, RPD's open data portal, and it's called camera locations. Or I'd be happy to sit down and look at it with you.
Sarah, would you be able to just put together a quick tutorial we could send home to them where they know what the website to go, where to go, and to access it, and just some tools? That would be great.
Yes, I'd love to.
Thank you.
She'd love to do that.
She does.
It's true.
It's true.
Yes. Right up her alley.
Yes.
I do have a question.
Up in the mic, Arlene, please.
Oh,
In there.
Please, me have to speak up?
Yeah,
Whoa.
please and thank you. Please and thank you.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the report and the presentation and how you put it forth. Really clear and concise. But my question is a bit of a concern, is about facial recognition. Is this something that RPD and or agencies are talking about? Have you heard any buzz about it coming into the city?
So that gives a nice little plug for an upcoming project that Dijon mentioned earlier. The next proposal for change that I'm working on after this is about artificial intelligence. And so we're going to have a lot more answers about that for you when we conclude that project. And so just not sure yet. Hold on to the question and we'll talk about it in a couple months.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, what I will just interject there and just make a comment about that. From early research, it does seem like some of that tech may be utilized by the county's crime center, which RPD is a part of. So as we continue to look into AI, we'll also be reaching out to the county to get clarity, because even though Rochester Police Department may not purchase it, it does not mean that the technology isn't being utilized through the county's partnership with RPD.
We had more questions?
Hold
on. We have
Just
a
a
couple.
clarification.
Well, Reverend Patterson, we have a couple more questions. Larry, and then AJ,
Sorry.
and then
I didn't realize.
and then Keith. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Sarah. Love the detail, and if you can't answer this now, just follow up with us. I had two questions. But one statement, I guess, like I'm thinking about Palantir and there's other governments and agencies and municipalities that aren't taking this seriously. So I'm glad we have this work. This is something that regular citizens can't think about or affect directly. But elected officials are, an agency like this can protect us, because there really is of movement across the country, especially with a lot of these corporations that are doing surveillance to take advantage of the community. And that makes policing harder, and also makes just people's privacy disappear. So I think the fact that we're kind of doing this work and doing it publicly is really important, outside even just law enforcement. But so thank you just for that, especially with the AI one coming up. These together are really important. So kind of on my first question, following up on what Dejan mentioned, like when the RPD is coordinating with state police and the sheriff and other agencies, and they're using things that they're banned from using. I mean, obviously, if they're working together on an investigation or on some kind of law enforcement action, there's just going to be cross-pollination maybe. Are there any policies for when they can't be affirmatively asking, oh, we're doing some investigation over here, we can't do this, but sheriff or other agency, can you use a technology that, is there any policy for them not to be able to do that, or is there any thought on that? That was my first question.
This is a great question, and it's information that would be contained in their memorandums of understanding, or what they call their mutual aid agreements with those other agencies. And you're on the nose. That's another topic that we're covering in our AI proposal for change.
We have previously requested, as part of another proposal for change, that RPD make public all of those mutual aid agreements. To date, that has not been implemented and not agreed to.
Thank you. My second question, maybe some clarification. I think it was, I don't know if maybe I read it wrong, but the FBI memo about that you mentioned, I mean, I thought it seemed like it said that they couldn't use that for criminal investigation or law enforcement purposes. It was just for, like, you're testing the item out and then don't think about what you saw, or like, what was the rationale for them being able to use it if they couldn't use it in a case? But sometimes there's things like, there's a proffer and whatever the person says can't be used because whatever happens. But this seemed very specific from the FBI that we're giving you access to something, but don't think about it after you use it. It almost seemed to be saying.
Yeah, it is a conundrum, but I think the idea is that it's to be used as information gathering tool, and so a case should not be built upon, according to the Harris Corporation and the FBI, a case should not be built around like the results of the kingfish, what the kingfish intercepts. Like there must be supplemental evidence beyond that, and then that's what they could use in a prosecution. But maybe the lawyer next to you could help me out with that.
Thank you.
I agree. I think that's probably what they're doing. They're using it to gather information, and then if they they may be using it to gather information and to determine they need to do further investigation, gather a different type of evidence to use in whatever the criminal case might be, or that sort of thing. But thanks, Sarah. I have a
We
few
still
questions.
can't hear you, AJ.
Thanks. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the presentation. I have a few questions for you. Do we know if RPD tracks who within RPD is accessing personally identifiable information so that they could theoretically prevent abuse, misuse, stalking, or harassment?
So ostensibly, all of our clicks can be tracked in the city of Rochester's IT. Like, ostensibly, yes.
Sarah, we can't hear you.
Okay,
either.
so ostensibly, yes.
Okay. And are there...
Sorry, I just want to add further context to that. We have had some training by Captain Sweatman in RPD related to the usage of some of their databases, and from what we've been shown, each officer has an individual login, so they are able to track, as Sarah has mentioned.
Thank you. And are there explicit consequences for violation of someone's privacy, whether in RPD's manual, training bulletins, elsewhere?
That I would have to review and get back to you.
Another question. So one thing I didn't see mentioned in here, and I guess it might not produce personally identifying information, but it might be considered a form of surveillance technology, is ShotSpotter. Is that something you were looking at all, or is RPD still using it? Any
The
thoughts on that?
questions are out there, and when I started the project, ShotSpotter was included, but you got it. It doesn't collect personally identifiable information, and it's a one-time, like it's not a recorded thing. It's a one-time alert. But great question, and it is something that's out there, and we still do talk about it at the PAB, so maybe you'll see it in a future project.
Do we know why RPD stopped using Stingray devices in February of 2025?
Well, they didn't necessarily stop using them then. They stated that they stopped using them a long time ago, or for some time, and no.
And also, if the NDA in 2012 was an FBI agreement with RPD, or do we know whether, and I assume we don't know whether or not the FBI is still planning on enforcing that agreement?
Correct. So I would also like to add that, you know, like I said, all of this information we have came from that New York Civil Liberties Union investigation, and I cannot find any reports by journalists or civil liberties groups after 2016 that talks about anything other than the non-disclosure agreement.
All right, last question. Do we know anything about the effectiveness of these surveillance programs in terms of their use by law enforcement? For example, have we seen clearance rates for crimes go up since the implementation of these devices? Do we know anything else about how effective these are in actually stopping crime?
So someone asked me this question just earlier today, so I was just thinking about it, that I think we have a really good opportunity for the Drones as First Responders pilot program, because these pilots have been going all around the country, and I imagine that they've been collecting data. So I started writing this report a while ago, and in the time since, there probably is like a proliferation of that kind of evidence that I will look into. And then I'm going to, as you're suggesting, I will also look into that for all the other technologies.
Thank you.
Okay, Keith, I think you can go ahead and ask your question now.
I'm going to just say that they've been covered already. And it was a question because I just want a clarification. What's the difference between the police department asking for cell phone records as opposed to Stingray, but that's a completely different thing. One is more under the radar, so to speak, whereas the other one requires legal procedures. So, thank you.
I have a question. I'm curious about. It's interesting that this research is being done at the same time that there is, potential protocol being written for the drones, and thank you for highlighting the importance of privacy impact assessments, and also calling out that they aren't done in completion by the RPD. And I'm curious what collaboration these two projects had. And are we feeling okay about submitting something to RPD regarding protocols for drone usage while this research is still ongoing?
I'll let Dejan answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our request here is simply for RPD to create the PIA, or rather follow a template that we'll recommend, which can be done at the same time as the rolling out and drafting of the Drones as First Responders program proposal for change. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
License plate readers is also something on my mind, and how, if that is going to be something that is looked at, or related to this huge project, ongoing project on
Yeah,
data
so
collection.
you all know the right questions to ask, and to our current knowledge, RPD doesn't use license plate readers. They are elsewhere in the county of Monroe, but it is a potential technology, and we will be covering it in the AI proposal for change.
Thank you.
We did get questions from Council President Miguel Melendez regarding license plate readers, automatic license plates readers. We provided some answers regarding the same sort of line of thinking regarding privacy. What Sarah has proposed here with the PIAs would apply should RPD seek to purchase automatic license plates readers, so hopefully we'll get some proactiveness and providing clarity on how it will impact Rochesterians' privacy.
I had another thought. This is kind of going back to the consortium that we're talking about later. I think that this paper, especially once it's ready, is going to be a great model that we can share with other communities, and they can give us impact and state information what they're doing, or more likely because of what this agency has that others don't, we can help inform some of the other communities across the state. Here's what we're doing here, here's what we're asking, you should be asking the same things. So I appreciate this, because I think it could be a ball that you're getting rolling in other parts of the state.
Thanks, Larry. And I also want to talk about one of the communities that I look to as examples for the PIAs, and that maybe you all could look at for an example, is the city of San Jose, California. They have what I would say is the gold standard for the community interaction with privacy impact assessments. So not only are they required for every project, not just the police department, but anything that would collect personal information. They also collect community input, like I do for our proposals for change. They do for their privacy impact assessments, and then they can stop projects. They'll say, we're not going to fund this project of tracking homeless people because the people in our community said they don't want that. So check that out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks so much. It was good to see you all.
As we shared, thank you again, Sarah, very comprehensive and informational. Gives us lots of food for thought relative to all of this, and just kind of the current state of affairs in our community, in our state, and in our country. As we shared earlier, as Luam shared, Brittany Wells is out and is excused. So I'm going to present the statewide consortium. The board is well aware of the fact that the PAB here in Rochester has taken a leading role relative to forming a statewide consortium with civilian oversight bodies across the state. There are 8+. We say 8+ because in places like Buffalo and Syracuse, they're in the process of forming bodies, and so we don't want to exclude individuals who are interested. So on December 16th, we had a focused convening. It's a very difficult time of the year, so it was predominantly Rochester and New York City on the call. But we were able to at least drill down and try to solidify a few things, but we're going to put information out in the next week or so to the rest of the consortium partners to get their feedback. So we met on the 16th, and again, that was virtually, and we wanted to have some focused discussions. We didn't need to have breakout groups because our numbers were small. So we obviously did quick introductions, and we wanted to talk about what do we hope to gain from a consortium in New York State. We then had a conversation about governance and what is the lightest governance structure that will allow this consortium to function, make decisions, and share responsibility. Overwhelmingly, we were very clear that we did not want to have a chair of the consortium. And the reason why is because oversight bodies, as you know, here in Rochester and other places, we come under attack. And so we wanted to make sure that a chair wouldn't be the sole bearer of an attack should it come from, who knows where. And so we liked having representation from each of the oversight bodies, and that we would have 1 to 2 individuals that would be represented. We will put that out for feedback, but that seemed to be the consensus, and I don't think that's going to be problematic. And that we would review, we would employ this structure if that is the will of the entire group, and then we'll look at it after a year to see if it works. So we talked about governance. We also talked about working groups, and we wanted to make sure that these groups could advance work between meetings, leverage expertise that exists, because there's certainly power in numbers, and we want to maintain the momentum. So we talked about possible options, policy, legislation, legal strategy, and litigation trends, data metrics, communications, public education, wellness and workforce, sustainability, and were there other things. Another thing was professional development and training, and that was actually recommended by Dolores. So we put that out again, the entire group, to see where we're going to land. But the agreement for those who were there was that we don't want to start off with too many working groups, right? We want to get things solidified. We want to have a solid front, and then we can expand as we move forward. We also decided, we talked about, did we want to meet monthly, every other month, quarterly? I think quarterly is going to work, but again, we want to get the feedback. We will do virtual meetings, but we would like to have 1 annual in-person convening, and more than likely it will be in Albany, since that's convenient for all of the other bodies to come to. So again, we'll put that out for vote. We then ended on what would we call our consortium name. And so we talked about it just for a moment, and we said, well, wait a minute though, if there's a possibility, and Luam, thank you for uplifting this, we might have the possibility of being under NACOL, so like a New York NACOL affiliate. Don't hold me to that particular language, but you get the gist of it. So we're going to work with NACOL to see what we might be able to do. So if we're able to somehow be more formally connected to NACOL, obviously that name needs to be in our name. So those were the general conversations that we had. Again, it was the 16th, you know, a little before the holiday break. So we'll get the information out, and I hope by the time we come back together in February, we'll be able to give you more information about where we are. Luam, I wasn't sure if there was anything else that you wanted to uplift, or Yvonne, I know you were there for a portion of it as well. Just wasn't sure, but.
I know we recorded that too, so will we be able to share that recording with all the invitees?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
Do we have how many agencies have taken part so far between the third meeting, 3 meetings?
6 or 7.
Okay. And do we know how many there are in the state? How many actually accountability
8,
boards?
like I said, 8 plus. There are 8 that are solidified, but then there are others that are in varying. And Larry, get back to your question relative to the website that does kind of you are. You have to go down rabbit holes to find that. So I'm asked trying to figure out, not always obvious spoken URL. Thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us to the report that, as mentioned, Chair is at home getting some rest while watching our streaming.
He is.
Yeah. And we will go over the report and start with the training committee. Knox, do you have an update?
No, but as a chair, you have your own report. Okay. Now we'll be Chair and I following up with our training before the chair trainings. We have training. We're going to continue to do that, and we will be following up with more details of that.
Then the Youth Engagement Committee that I joined. We don't have any real updates. Last updates we gave in December highlighted the work done in the first half of the fiscal year and the slowdown of December and the holiday season. And of course, with our move, that's kept us pretty busy. But I know that in December, our community engagement team was involved with some of the neighborhood association meetings as they do all year round, so that will continue. And our larger event that we're looking to highlight is in February, community session that we'll have for the privacy impact proposal for change.
I also just wanted to add that yesterday or the day before, Connected Communities reached out to us, and they would like to have us do some work with them. So we will be following up very shortly. So that's just half the press.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's transition over to old business. Does anybody have anything? Actually, I do. I wanted to talk a lot, and I didn't want to interrupt during our operation update, but talking more about our meeting space for these meetings. So that Dr. Myers-Small in this but PAB Alliance thought came of that, having these meetings in other spaces other than here. And open up the floor to hear if there's any other that. I know that scheduling this room in particular can be a little difficult, and Board Member Wilson, I really appreciated your comment about consistency, and I absolutely agree with you. I think changing locations is difficult, but also changing when we meet makes it more challenging to engage, and for the people that have to show up, our staff, our board members, and making sure that our schedules remain manageable. So I just wanted to know if anybody had any thoughts, because I know I do really like the idea of us looking at community spaces and doing sort of a landscape of what community spaces would be available, both from us as board members, but also reaching out to our community members that we're already engaged with, or people that would like to engage with us to have that conversation. And of course, there's lots of logistics that go behind planning these meetings, needing to be able to have the technology, we also need the space to be able to accommodate the technology, to make sure we can stream. So I don't say that to say, oh, well, why don't we just go anywhere? There's definitely some work that needs to go with every move, but I think it might be worth doing to remain engaged with the community.
I just want to say that sounds good, but like you said, we need consistency. So I guess we can attempt that to get some pilots going out. And my suggestion would be maybe to some of the local churches, especially if they have the I want to say the expertise, so they have the availability. But I just really think that it should stay consistently on the first Thursday of each month. That's basically, so wherever we go, whatever we do, it need to be on the first Thursday of each month. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I do like that idea. But maybe there's a solution, and Dolores has already done work, so I hate to undo a little bit of it potentially. To be a conversation with staff in the Alliance and others in the community. But maybe on those first Thursdays when we can't be in chambers, instead of having them in the office, those are ones we have out in the community. And also maybe that could somehow line up with the meetings that the district council represents, the district board appointees are supposed to have out in the community. We're supposed to have at least one a year in the community, our own meeting. But maybe that could work for the Northeast or Northwest or South District community meeting also happens to be a board meeting that's on a first Thursday that we couldn't do here. And then that could kind of maybe focus the location that we could find with the community that works and hitting one of our community meetings that we're supposed to do. It keeps it on the first Thursday, and we're doing it out in the community. And the logistics can be figured out by the staff, but maybe there's dates that line up.
I also want to say, Heidi, you on the Rochester City School District Board, correct? Heather,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've known her for years, but I didn't really know her name. So that would be also something, I guess, that we can probably look into, to have it in some of the schools, or even the school, Rochester City School, the board meetings, okay, and make it to the public.
As long as they have the technology, we can be
they
flexible.
Got the technology.
Did I hear someone over here wanting to say something? Okay. Well, definitely something for us to consider. I would love for us to continue conversations, as I know that's a heavy lift for our staff. So again, we don't say it lightly, but I think that we have some ideas, not speaking for the board, but I think that we can leverage and crowdsource some ideas of locations to make it an easier lift if we'd like to move forward with that. What's that? Was that a vote? I don't.
No.
There isn't really anything to vote for because we don't have a direct action. It's just more of let's keep this conversation going for next meetings. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Moving on to new business. Any new business?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, for the sake of the public and for anyone else who's interested in police accountability issues.
Don't forget the mic, AJ.
Yep,
Thank you.
Trying to talk into it while I'm reading through papers here. Bear with me. So I just wanted to mention the existence of the New York Attorney General's most recent annual report from the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office. It was released on December 30th of 2025. It's interesting because apart from discussing the role of that office and what they do, it also makes legislative recommendations, including things like promoting public health approaches to mental health crises, to minimize risk of police involvement, improving transparency and banning profiling by law enforcement. But particularly relevant to this group is its section about facilitating civilian oversight of law enforcement. It specifically references Rochester's Police Accountability Board and the lawsuits that we have faced to talk about some of the challenges that civilian oversight of law enforcement, particularly in Rochester, has faced, and why it should be expanded both here and across the state. In particular, the report notes that despite the trend towards local civilian oversight, certain state laws have had the consequence of restricting the development of civilian oversight entities. And in the coming session, the legislature should address these issues and more generally facilitate civilian oversight by removing restrictions that prevent localities from determining the best way to establish police oversight and accountability mechanisms that serve the needs of their communities. I think this report is powerful, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's interested in these topics. It can be found on the Attorney General's website under the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigation Office. They have a list of their annual reports on the website. Check it out if you're interested.
Any other new business? Thank you for sharing that, AJ. Okay, well, we actually don't have a reason to go to executive session. So can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Second?
Second.
Favor? Right. Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next month on February 19th. And if anybody's interested in coming to the meeting, that will be at 57 St. Paul. Thank you.
What happens is we have to come back and dismiss. We haven't closed the meeting out. The meeting was we go into and then we come back as a group.
So we can't leave right now?
Yes. You didn't want to go into executive session?
No, we're not, there's no
They
executive
said
session.
not tonight?
No.
Oh, okay.
So do we keep this stuff or
We
do
ain't ready.
we
No, keep the paper, but leave the paper.
Yes, because we use so many of them, he just asked us to keep it.
Oh, keep the please.
Keep your stuff, but leave the folder.
Recycle. It's a budget.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a budget. Right, the alliance. Jesus.
Yes.
Right there in front of the part that I thought I could come in. That's why I was late. I had to walk around to that raggedy part. Where you park?
You gotta go out the side and then walk around.
Because you know, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, all the
I
gifts,
got you.
all my gifts. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Folders and the paper?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Huh? Yeah, that's yours. They've been kept, what's your name? The former secretary used to collect them so that you got them again instead of continuing to use the same.
I'm retired, but
Is that right?
I'm retired.
Nope. Huh?